today, the Senate of the United States has a chance to do something about jobs right now by voting for the American Jobs Act. This is a moment of truth for the U.S. Senate.
The moment of truth for the U.S. Senate. Well said. Welcome back to Harbor. President Obama was in Pittsburgh today, as you saw, for a meeting of his Council on Jobs and Competitiveness, and he made sure to let voters know there was a jobs bill vote today. But Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell described the jobs bill as a political stunt. Well, that's what he says. Let's hear.
Democrats have designed this bill to fail. They've designed their own bill to fail, in the hopes that anyone who votes against it will look bad for opposing a bill they mistakenly refer to as a jobs bill.
Wow. The upcoming procedural vote requires 60 votes to keep the jobs bill alive. That looks mighty unlikely right now. But will the president get enough Democrats to support his bill to save his face and to look strong? Howard Fineman's editorial director of the Huffington Post Media Group and an MSNBC political analyst, and John Howland's a national affairs editor of the New York Magazine. You folks are both up there watching that Republican debate tonight. But let me ask you about this vote. Howard, it seems to me that based upon the latest tally, they could get as many as 52 out of the 53 Democratic coalition. They could also get perhaps less than 50. We're going to watch that and come back in our second edition tonight of Hardball to give you the results of the vote to this evening. But how high are the stakes, sir?
Well, the stakes are high, and it's no accident that this vote is happening today in parallel with this Republican debate here at Dartmouth College, Chris, because in talking to White House people, what the strategists there are telling me is that they like the contrast. They want to be able to say that this Congress down in Washington isn't just a do-nothing Congress, it's a prevent-anything Congress, and that the Republicans in the Senate in particular are blocking this jobs bill on the same night that Republicans are up here in New Hampshire claiming they want to talk about how to create jobs in America. That's a contrast that the White House says it likes, even if they don't get every Democrat to vote for this bill.
Okay, Howard, John, the question to you is how many votes they need tonight. There's 53 Democrats in the coalition, including 2 independents. So Lieberman, of course, and Bernie Sanders, but that's 53. They've already lost Ben Nelson, of Nebraska. They're up to 52 possibles. Do they need at least 50 to say they won tonight or what? What's the number?
Chris, that sounds about right to me. I think from the president's standpoint, as you've acknowledged and as we've talked about over the course of the last few weeks, they've known that this bill was not going to pass. And as Howard pointed out, what they want is the contrast with Republicans. It's not good for them to lose a lot of Democrats because that allows it to no longer be a party line thing. And they can't paint Republicans as the only obstacle to progress. But at the same time, the president's going to end up running against the do-nothing Congress. And that's going to include some number of Democrats. He's going to run against them as much as he's running against Republicans. He's going to have to save his own skin more than he is being a party leader as he goes forward towards re-election.
So let's take a look. President Obama called on voters to support his jobs bill and actually reprised that pass this bill mantra. Let's listen.
Let Congress know who they work for. Remind them what's at stake when they cast their vote. Tell them that the time for gridlock and games is over, the time for action is now, and tell them to pass this bill. If you want construction workers on the job, pass the bill. If you want teachers back in the classroom, pass the bill. If you want tax cuts for your family and small business owners, pass this bill. If you want our veterans to share in the opportunity that they upheld and they defended, do the right thing. Pass this bill.
Howard, my big question to you and both right now, is this big enough? Is this big enough, this difference between Democrats and Republicans, for the president to be able to say with a $175 billion infrastructure bill, is he able to say this is a turnaround proposal? This is the difference between economic hell and economic heaven? This is the good guys' position, the other guys are the bad guys?
No, I don't think the numbers are big enough, Chris, for that kind of thing. He had his one shot at that in the original stimulus bill when he had more political clout. Some would argue that he didn't go big enough, but be that as it may. No, I don't think the numbers here are what turns it. He's really making a sort of political and procedural argument, which is that this Republican controlled or at least Republican frozen Congress just won't move at all. that they won't listen to reason, that they're on another planet politically and in terms of economics. And no matter what reasonable package he proposes, not the biggest in the world, but a reasonable, decent package as he describes it, they aren't even willing to consider. That's what his argument is, not as I said, not just do nothing Congress, but stop anything Congress.
Same question to you, John. I'm looking at the violence, not violence, the activity on the streets of New York. I hope it doesn't turn violent. The frenzy of passions at work in this country right now. For everybody that's on the street, there's probably 1,000 people who have that same kind of anxiety and anger about what's going on. Is this president meeting that zeitgeist, if you will, that feeling in the country head on, or is he doing it small bore?
I think he's doing it small bore, Chris, and I think it's a mistake for two reasons. You know, you have a Goldilocks approach here, what's supposed to be a Goldilocks approach, and you end up with a bill that for people on the left, it's not big enough, it's not bold enough, it actually won't fix the problem. And I think as a matter of substance, even if you pass this, no one really believes that this would fix the problem with joblessness. And among those who think that all stimulus is wasted government money, this looks like another liberal boondoggle. So I'm not sure who this wins with. It doesn't win with people who want big spending. It doesn't win with people who are skeptical of spending. It ends up in a middle ground that doesn't satisfy anyone.
Well, let's take a look at Chuck Schumer, the senator from New York. Here he is with Chuck Todd on what happens after the bill doesn't get 60 votes. Of course, it always takes 60 to break a filibuster. They're just trying to get 50 to look good as Democrats. Let's listen.
What is the plan after today? The whole bill does not make it, doesn't get the 60 votes. Then it's piecemeal?
Yes.
Is that you start doing it piece by piece?
Piece by piece. I mean, each of these pieces has broad support among the American people. As we draw the line on the specific issues, I think you may find the kind of coming together that we're not going to find on the vote today.
So what's going to get through if this doesn't in terms of pieces? Will we get a payroll tax cut for workers to make hiring workers cheaper? Will we get an unemployment benefits extension, which they've always fought? Will we get infrastructure? What's it going to be, Howard? What gets through after this?
Well, I think payroll tax probably. I think they've got to do it. Having cut it twice, they've got to do it again. Otherwise, we could be tipped back into a second recession because of cuts in consumer spending and consumer confidence. That's probably number one. After that, who knows? I don't know what else will get passed. And the question you asked is the right one, Chris. This isn't something that is going to do much more than preserve the status quo, extend unemployment benefits, continue a payroll tax cut. Yes, the infrastructure piece is a big piece, but I seriously doubt that the president's going to have the muscle to get that through.
Yeah, I wonder if this administration is the last one for President Obama. Will he look back and say, I tried to do too much on jobs, or I didn't try enough? I think we're getting to the answer. Anyway, thank you, Howard Fineman. Thank you, John Heilman.